Good morning, Europe. It is Monday, the 22nd of August. I'm Helena Humphrey. Here are your top stories.
Russian authorities are investigating the car bomb that killed the daughter of a prominent ultra-nationalist political analyst. Kyiv has dismissed all allegations that it was involved in the murder. President Zelensky warns of increased Russian attacks this week as Ukraine marks 6 months since Russia's invasion of the country, and 31 years since it declared independence from the former Soviet Union. And Serbian President Aleksandar Vučić warns that Belgrade will intervene directly if NATO peacekeepers don't protect Serbs living in Kosovo.
Authorities in Moscow have launched an investigation after the daughter of Russian ultra-nationalist ideologue Alexander Dugin was killed in a suspected car bomb attack outside the capital on Saturday. Investigators say an explosive device was planted in the SUV driven by Daria Dugina. No one has claimed responsibility for the attack, but a Russian political analyst and former speechwriter for President Putin suggests it's linked to the war in Ukraine.
For the propaganda apparatus, this is an act of intimidation. In general, for loyalists, for a loyal voter, this is a symbolic act demonstrating that hostilities are confidently transferred to the territory of Russia, which means that this is no longer an abstract war that you watch on TV. This is already happening in Russia. Not only Crimea is being bombed, but terrorist attacks are already being carried out in Moscow region.
Kyiv has strongly denied any involvement. Alexander Dugin is a fierce champion of Russia's authoritarian leadership and is a vocal supporter of Moscow's war in Ukraine. His daughter was also a strong critic of the West and was sanctioned by the United States in March for writing that Ukraine would perish if it joined NATO. Ukraine is preparing to celebrate its independence from the USSR in 1991 on Wednesday. This year, the date also marks exactly 6 months since Moscow invaded the country. Kyiv fears Russia could step up airstrikes this week. President Zelensky has warned that Russia may be preparing to put Ukrainian fighters captured in Mariupol on public trial to coincide with the anniversary. If this despicable trial takes place, if our people are brought into these settings in violation of all agreements, all international rules, there will be a reaction. This will be the line beyond which no negotiations are possible. Russia will cut itself off from the negotiations. There will be no more conversations. Our state has said everything. Western leaders on Sunday called for restraint around Ukraine's Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, Europe's largest, which has been occupied by the Russian army. Fighting around the plant has raised fears of a nuclear disaster worse than Chernobyl. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has said sanctions against Russia will continue until peace in Ukraine is restored.
The Russian government has to understand that they will not get rid of the sanctions simply by waiting until circumstances change again. That is only possible in the context of a fair agreement with Ukraine, and so a peaceful situation will come about when the Russian state is prepared to accept this.
Activists stormed the Open Doors event at the German Chancellery in Berlin, demanding an embargo on Russian gas. 2 activists with writing on their body, caught on camera next to Scholz, were apprehended by security.
Ukraine is preparing to celebrate its Independence Day on August 24th, the same day that marks 6 months since the beginning of Russia's full-scale invasion. In contrast with the usual military parades, this year Kyiv will be exhibiting destroyed Russian military equipment. In his late-night address on Saturday, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky warned that Russia might take the opportunity to launch a brutal attack. We should be aware that Russia may try to do something particularly disgusting and particularly violent this week, he said. That's our enemy. Russia has done something disgusting and violent every week during the last 6 months, constantly. However, the president also said the occupation of Crimea is temporary and that Ukraine is returning. His message follows an alleged drone attack on the headquarters for Moscow's Black Sea Fleet in Sevastopol. However, the Russian-appointed governor claims the drone was shot down. Serbian President Aleksandar Vučić has warned NATO that it must protect the Serbian minority in Kosovo or Belgrade will move to do it itself. NATO peacekeepers were deployed in Kosovo last week after the collapse of EU-mediated talks. Vučić says it aimed at pushing Serbs out of Kosovo, something he says he won't allow.
There will be no refugee columns. And we will save our people from persecution and pogroms. If NATO doesn't want to do it, if KFOR forces don't want to do it.
This comes as EU Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell hosted mediated talks between the leaders of Serbia and Kosovo last week. Tensions have been rising between the Balkan neighbours since Pristina declared last month that Serbian identity documents and vehicle licence plates would no longer be valid in Kosovo. Vučić also claims Albanian gangs are spilling into northern Kosovo, where most Kosovo Serbs live and need to be stopped. Serbia, along with its allies Russia and China, has refused to recognise Kosovo's 2008 Declaration of Independence. Britain's biggest container port, Felixstowe, has been brought to a standstill. Some 2,000 workers began an 8-day strike on Sunday, joining a series of industrial walkouts around the country, which are hitting supply chains hard. While staff deny the strikes are coordinated, they say the 8% pay rise offered by the port is not enough for a company making millions in profit.
It's nothing to do with a national strategy or anything like that. It's something which has happened here at a local level, and it reflects what's happening elsewhere, because people all over the country, I think, are feeling the same way. That's why it appears to be, perhaps it appears to be coordinated, because people everywhere are feeling the same way and coming to the same conclusion. Enough is enough. We are not going to take this anymore.
Located some 150 kilometres northeast of London, the port handles around 4 million containers a year. While this is almost half of the country's incoming shipping freight, bosses at the port say they believe what they are offering workers is fair.
We agree they deserve a fair day's pay for a fair day's work, and I think that's what we give them.
Britons are facing the worst cost of living crisis in decades as wages fail to keep pace with inflation and grocery costs and utility bill increases. According to the Office of National Statistics, the inflation rate is at a 40-year high.
Disturbed beachgoers watch on as rescuers carry out a risky operation to save over a dozen swimmers from strong currents in France's coastal town of Biarritz. 18 people were dragged out to sea by riptides, with some pulled 800 metres from the shore during the weekend. Lifeguards and police used jet skis and low-flying helicopters to successfully pull the swimmers out of the water and carry them to safety. Local authorities issued the highest alert level along the coastline, which is popular with surfers and holidaymakers as large waves made for treacherous conditions.